So this one is gonna be Rob Talks Hockey. I'm not subscribed. I thought I was. Okay. What the hell did I just witness?
This right here is Sergei Bobrovsky, a man who would take home 2 Vezina trophies during his time in Columbus.
Big of context, Vezina Trophy is for the best hockey goaltender. There you go.
Where he would then sign a 7-year, $70 million contract with Florida. Except his game would see massive regression, leading to many people saying he has arguably the worst contract in the NHL. But during the playoffs, we see a different beast.
What a save! And Nature's moving in. He deeps out is stopped by Bobrovsky. And that's
63 saves.
Partially blocked by Montour. Out in front. Bobrovsky dives to his right with a robbery.
This right here is Mitch Marner, becoming the highest paid winger in NHL history. But considering his dominant...
Oh no. Those who know hockey know exactly what's coming up.
Regular seasons.
Brody alongside. Stolen. Marner in front. What a goal!
His willingness to hit...
Okay, chat. I'm trying to fucking untangle this hockey fucking onesie that I wear when I'm goaltending. But this is like... Okay, I think I got it. It's like a onesie you slip on before the game.
Hit the gritty. I hope I never see this again in my life. But in the playoffs, Mitch Marner disappears. And this season more than ever, we have witnessed the difference between the regular season and playoff hockey. Throw out everything you see in the regular season. I don't care if you score 69 goals. I don't care if you had 100 points. If that doesn't translate to playoff hockey, it truly doesn't matter. If you can't learn from years of playoff experience.
Because what's the point of playing the regular season? To qualify for the playoffs. And what's the point of the playoffs? To win the cup. So if you're doing insane numbers during the regular season, who cares if you can't put anything in the playoffs?
And then elevate your game in the next run, you will not see success in the playoffs. Sorry Leafs fans if it seems like I'm doing a personal attack, but come on!
It should be a personal attack because that's all the Leafs have. Players who put up insane numbers during the regular season and they can't do shit in the playoffs. I'm sorry, but it's true. I like Marner. I think Marner's cool. I hate Matthews. I think Matthews, I don't know. It's just a personal thing. I like Marner, but I hate Matthews. I started liking Nylander too because homie's insane. But apart from these two, like, I don't really like the Leafs. I'm a Habs fan, so I hate the Leafs by default. But like, apart from these 2 players, I don't know what redeems the Leafs. I guess Joseph Woll, their new goaltender, he's kind of cool. But apart from that, like,
Brother, this guy stinks!
And it begs the question, why? We hear the sentiment that playoff hockey is different. But why?
why?
On the left side of this
There's way more hitting. Oh, there you go.
graphic, we have the average for regular season hits per game, where this year, we would see around 45 hits. And I say around because I would have to pay $20 to see the rest of this list.
Bullshit.
And if it's slightly more, it doesn't matter. Because throughout the first round of this year's playoffs, we have seen on average 81 hits per game. So nearly double than that of the regular season. But okay, there's more physicality. What's the big deal? How could this translate to Mitch Marner's game? Going from an elite...
I know the answer. It's because Mitch Marner beneficiates a lot from the extra space he is given. When you see Mitch Marner play and just do his stuff, he's like making insane offensive reads on plays that he has time to make in the regular season. But when comes playoff times, these defensemen do not want you near the crease. Like this right here, this would not happen. This guy would have destroyed him. Hold on, we'll see.
What's the big deal? How could this translate to Mitch Marner?
Would have destroyed him here. He would have went for the hit. Boom. Shut down. Nothing else. Just boom. That's why.
Game. Going from an elite first-line winger to being invisible in each game. This hitting stat speaks volume on how the game of hockey sees an exponential shift when it comes to the playoffs. For one, players finish every hit. You want to make that perfect outlet pass? Okay, but you're going to have to pay for it.
Exactly what he's saying.
But more crucially, coaches completely adjust their team structure. For example, in the regular season,
Exactly. In the regular season, you want to have a consistent season, so you make sure that you don't change things too much, so you don't tire your players for the 82 games. But during playoffs, and hockey playoffs are the hardest fucking playoffs there is. Okay? 4 games to win in each series. You have 8 teams per side, so that's 1, 2, that's 3 rounds at least, right? 3 times 4. I'm getting confused here. Hold on. Yeah, so there you go. Okay. So, in order to win the Stanley Cup, you have the first round. Boom. Hold on. We'll zoom in a bit. You have the first round, the second round, the third round, and the finale. That's 4 rounds, which you need 4 wins to advance and win. So 4 times 4, that's 16 games at least if you don't lose a single one. If you go to game 7, 7 times 4, that is 28 games that can be played in total. So between 16 and 28 games you need to play. And it's every other night. It's not every Saturday like football. It's every other night. I think the only sports that is that hard to win is maybe the NBA, I think. Back to what I was saying about... So in the regular season, you have also 82 games to compete through in the regular season. But anyways, so you have your best players structurally, and when comes playoff time, the coaches analyze the fuck out of their opponents. They see which players are good, which players to look out for, which players to shut down, and they build their lineup specifically to counter the other team. So you could have played insane regular season, like fucking 2 goals per game, let's just say. Insane. But if the other first line out there is specialized in hitting you, let's say you're a smaller guy, let's say the top line on the other side is specialized at hitting, well, coach is not going to put you with your regular line. He's going to put you with bigger guys, so he might move you down the lineup a bit to make sure that you don't get destroyed out there. That's why the playoffs are so freaking different. Anyways, back to the video.
it is very common to see a 2-1-2 formation. So 2 forecheckers on the puck.
And there's a way you play the game too.
1 player floating around the neutral zone, and 2 defensemen in the back, as this team structure allows for more offensive opportunities. As some players will thrive in this system, as it increases the likelihood of a takeaway or at least a good puck battle.
Like good breakaway players. We're thinking Austin Matthews. We're thinking Mitch Marner. We're thinking who's another guy? These are the 2 main ones I'm thinking. Anyways,
there's a higher chance where that team regains the puck after a dump in, which results in high danger scoring chances. On this play, both teams are running a 2-1-2 structure.
Oh, look at that. Who they take as an example? The Toronto Maple Leafs, wearing their green jersey, their best jersey, because I hate the fucking blue. Hello, Sherry. Welcome to the stream.
After a puck battle in the neutral zone, the Leafs take possession. And because they have 2 forwards on the rush, and because Carolina is also playing in a 2-1-2, the Canes lose coverage.
And there you go. You get a free chance. You will not be able to do that in playoffs, because defense is very heavily valorized in playoffs. You don't want the other team to build a lead, because if you build a lead, you get on the guy's morale. And when you get on the guy's morale, it puts more pressure on your goaltender. And when your goaltender is under pressure, he's not going to be able to make saves, which then snowballs and snowballs. That's why. Hockey is so cool.
Big trade-off of allowing a goal. However, yes, the system instills offense, but it has a big trade-off of allowing odd man rushes. If the F1 or F2 loses the puck battle...
Okay, So an odd man rush is when you have more people coming in the offensive zone than you have defenders ready to receive them. That's all.
Or maybe there's a turnover, there's a good chance of an odd man rush going back the other way. So this structure will inevitably lead to high flying offense. On this next play, again, both
which is very common in the regular season, because you have, let's say you have 82 games, so like the brain, and there's not these high stakes, whatever. In the regular season, offense is predominant because you have 82 games to break records, to do anything, so your scorers are gonna want to score, yeah, right? So like, anyways, and there's contract negotiations after, because most of the season is in the regular season. Like, that's how most athletes make their money, because there's only 16 teams that are making it to the playoffs. So most players are playing for the regular season. That is why.
Seattle and Toronto are playing a 2-1-2 system. The Seattle defenseman attempts a stretch pass, Toronto intercepts, and because Seattle was committed to a 2-1-2, the Leafs go on an odd man rush.
There you go. See, 3 people. That's what an odd man rush is. Yes, he's here, but he's not. Ideally, when you play defense, you want to have your back towards your goal and your hands ready to intercept the puck. He does not count in this defensive scenario because he cannot do any of those. So therefore, they have an odd man rush because these 3 are lethal and he's catching up. So you have 2 players versus 3 essentially.
Here comes Mitch Marner in front! Scores!
Where they make a beautiful passing play and score. However, this strategy does not work in the playoffs. Yes, teams will see success in the regular season, but because the 2-1-2 will inevitably create odd man rushes, we see teams playing a 1-2-2
which I like. I like this foundation because you have 2 people guarding the middle and you have 2 people ready for offense. As a goaltender, I like this. I feel more secure to know that, let's say F1 intercepts the puck, D2 is going to be ready to help, right? And F2 on the black side is going to have longer to travel to come help F1, and F2 can intervene. That's why, as a goalie, this is my preferred way of my team playing.
Coverage, as this system prioritizes defensive structure. Yes, the F1 may lose the puck battle, but
and I'm a huge defense guy. I think the defense is an art that needs to be mastered. I think defense is such a crucial part in hockey, even in the high scoring game we have today. But that's my opinion. I know some people don't like that. And yes, I love my Cole Caulfields. I love my Ovechkins. I think that you do need some good offense, but the defense is important as well. Not like those big like defense. No, just that everyone puts in the effort and is willing to learn defense. I think it's huge.
there's now little to no chance of an odd man rush, which helps contain and eliminate great players from scoring off the rush, as the 1-2-2 coverage forces the opposition to revolve their game around the dump and chase, basically clogs up the neutral zone, therefore it leads to better defensive positioning.
So, okay, I'll explain to you guys the dump and chase. The dump and chase is when you're in between the blue line and the center red line, and you dump the puck in. Yeah, that's why I'm explaining it to you, because I'm trying to get you situated in all this. So a dump and chase is when you are past the red line, and you dump the puck in the end of the zone, so then the two defensive players are looking towards the boards, and you try to have one of your two offensive players rush in and pinch them and try to force them to make a mistake, so they accidentally pass it to one of your guys that's moving in the offensive zone. Therefore, this strategy can be used when A, your team has less overall skill, B, when you need to put pressure on the other team, or C, to kill time. So it's a win-win-win strategy. However, it's a very boring strategy. You're not often going to score That way, unless you have players that are specialists in doing that.
Zone. Therefore, it leads to better defensive positioning. So when your team is ready for the opposing team to make a rush, it also leads to a big uptick in hits, as the 1-2-2 requires teams to be way more methodical, as it turns chaotic hockey into a game of chess. Therefore, if you're a player who can not only perform in the playoffs, but elevate your game to the next level, your team will not see results. It's that simple. If you have a coach who can't adjust a team's game.
So I know what some hockey fans are going to tell me, or people who have heard about hockey. Well, isn't McDavid like a super high skill player? How come he thrives in playoffs and in regular season? That is because Connor McDavid is the most intelligent player in the National Hockey League. He is the fastest. He has the best stick handling, and even though he doesn't have the physicality, he plays with players that do have that physicality, and he has the height to defend himself. That is why Connor McDavid thrives no matter the situation.
Plan on the fly, that team will run into a wall. And while researching the topic of who is the best playoff performer, I would find some mind-blowing stats. On this graphic, we have a fairly comprehensive list of the best players in the game. And Mitch Marner. Sorry, Marner, I just can't forgive you for this. And we'll also include the careers of Gretzky and Mario Lemieux for perspective.
Of course, McDavid, Draisaitl, McKinnon are there, because these three are centers, and centers do the most for a team, A. And B, these three guys have mastered their game. McDavid knows how to use his speed, McKinnon knows how to use his explosiveness, and Draisaitl knows how to use his physicality. This is why these three are on top.
As each spectrum represents point per...
And of course, Gretzky and Lemieux, they were fucking monsters because they were like smurfing on everyone. These guys were so good. Like, these guys were like way beyond their times. Hold on, look. Gretzky, the highest point scorer of all time. If you took away every single one of Gretzky's goals, he would still be on top of the point leaders. Think about that. If you took away every single goal Gretzky has scored, his assists would be enough to make him the top scorer still today. Yeah. Food for thought.
Game averages. All the way to the left, we have 0.5 points per game. In the regular season, this equates to 41 points in 82 games.
Which is respectable. That's like third line player, maybe second line at times. No, third line. No, that can be second line player and sometimes third line players on really good teams. So you know what? That's fair.
All the way to the right, we have 2 points per game.
This is insane. This is like Gretzky number. Gretzky is like the best to ever do it. So yeah.
Which in the regular season would equal to 164 points. The gold dots represent a player's regular season point per game average over the last 3 years. And by no surprise, McDavid leads this list with an astounding 1.71 points per game. Well, from today's age, as Gretzky and Lemieux were truly on another stratosphere.
Yeah,
this next stat was shocking.
My dad saw Lemieux and saw Gretzky a bit play. Did he see Gretzky? I think I'm cooking right now. Hold on. Did my father see him play? Yes, he did. Yes, he did. Yes, he did. It was when he was getting older, but he did. Yeah. Oh, never mind. Yeah, look, he saw his 130 point season. Like, look at it, how insane this guy's numbers are. 200 points, 215 points. Now, let's compare the best player this season, okay? So just to give you guys an idea. Stats. Regular season stats. So, the most points this season was 144 points by Nikita Kucherov. That is a very, very high stat total, because when I was younger, let's say the year Montreal got to the playoffs, see, 87 points. That was the highest. Carey Price was there. Okay, look at the point totals. This is when we grew up. This is in 2014. All right? 87 points in total during the season, right? Okay. Now we take it to today, and this guy this season has 144 points. That is the combination of goals plus assist. An assist is the 2 passes leading up to a goal. Fair enough, right? And you're telling me that this man right here had a season where he had 215 points on the season. That's how insane this guy's a legend. There's no beating him. Well, there's no beating them. Like, these two guys are insane and will never be beaten, in my opinion. Unless you go back to goalies who can't drop to the fucking floor.
Couple years, Mitch Marner has been under fire due to his underwhelming, if not non-existent, playoff numbers. And well, his production would drop off by 0.32 when it comes to playoff hockey. In the regular season, he's averaged a 104-point pace. His playoff equivalent would be 78 points, which honestly is not that bad, but this point total comes nowhere near his $11 million.
Exactly. This guy is getting paid $11 million per year. And some of you might watch basketball and be like, oh, that's nothing. Yeah, our most paid player is around 13 million. So yes, it's a huge fucking deal.
Price tag. Also, if the line turns red, it means we saw a decrease. If it goes green, we would see an increase. Because what's crazy is that if we unveil Connor McDavid's numbers, we get an even crazier perspective. Because even though McDavid has put up regular season numbers we didn't think were possible in today's game, this man crushes his regular season totals in the playoffs. He even surpasses Gretzky and Lemieux, who would actually see a point decrease in the playoffs. So does this mean that McDavid is the best playoff riser of all time? Maybe?
Yes.
Actually,
in my opinion,
no.
yes.
Leon
No?
Draisaitl has had the greatest playoff increase in NHL history, as his production has increased by nearly 0.4.
So, for anyone wondering why I'm freaking out, the green line means the increase of performance during the playoffs. The hardest time of year to play, these guys are getting their stats up. When everyone wants to win, these guys are winning even more. That's what this means. And the green line is by how much more are they winning.
4 points per game. This is a crazy jump that even surpasses McDavid. On top of crushing every NHL legend.
Not winning, but scoring points and being effective for their team in order to get the wins.
Which to me at least also emphasizes how Gretzky and Lemieux had inflated stats due to the NHL having so many expansion teams during their eras. And don't get me wrong, they would still put up absurd point totals. I'm not trying to take away from their legendary careers, but the fact that their stats decreased against the top teams, and McDavid and Draisaitl stats,
even the best fucking players of all time were arguably the 2 best centers of all time, which is the highest impact position in the sport. It is no question. You have 2 freaking the best decreasing, so these guys are increasing during the playoffs.
would increase against the top teams, in a time where there is far more parity and competition, truly speaks volume on just how special these players are.
Exactly. Like he said, Gretzky and Lemieux played in a time where teams were stacked. Like, a few teams had the best players. But McDavid and Draisaitl have each other, yes, fair enough. But you have very good teams nowadays. And, like the Montreal Canadiens, who are so-called rebuilding, were close to having a 50% win rate during this season. The Montreal Canadiens, who finished almost last, were close to having a 50% win rate in the season. That's how good the NHL is getting and how balanced the teams are getting. So these guys being up there is crazy.
Surprisingly though, Kucherov and McKinnon have seen a pretty big decline in the playoffs. And don't get me wrong, they're Stanley Cup champions, but this really shows how their teams have had great depth, which by no means is a negative. Austin Matthews would also see a drop, which isn't that surprising.
I mean, fuck the Tampa Bay Lightning were fucking cheating. I'll explain to you. There's this thing called the salary cap, and the salary cap calculates the maximum amount of money you are allowed to give all of your players at the same time. So basically, if the addition of all your contracts go past that number, you are out of the rule. You are like out of, yeah, you're like breaching the rule, and you need to get rid of some contracts ASAP to not have a penalty next year. However, this rule does not apply to playoffs. And when a player is injured for a long time, their contract doesn't count in the addition. Follow me here? So what Kucherov's team did, the guy right here, is they put their huge contract players as injured long term. Oh no, they cannot play for a long time. And they would make trades to get better players with heavier salaries. And then when playoffs came around, oh yeah guys, miracle has struck. These guys are able to play. It is a miracle. We don't know how, but our fucking surgeon teams are magicians. And they would be $8 million over the cap. $8 million over the limit. And that shows on the ice too. Because there's a reason why players are paid higher, because they are better. So you follow me here? They had teams full of A, B, and C tier players. And they destroyed everything during the playoffs. So yeah.
Surprising, but what has shocked me the most is that David Pastrnak has had the worst progression out of everyone on this list, as he has seen nearly a 0.6 point per game decline. We've been hearing about Marner, Matthews, Elias Pettersson.
No, I didn't expect. This player is a winger, which is a position that has less impact as a center, but he manages to like carry his team anyways, which is why I am so surprised that this guy has had this much of a drop.
But we don't hear about Pastrnak failing to perform in big games.
No, exactly. Pastrnak is always the guy that shows up when it matters. Oh, when it matters. Gotcha. I get
Pasta
it
has
now.
gone from averaging 103 points in the regular season to being a 55-point player in the playoffs. However, Boston's depth has greatly compensated for his playoff woes.
Well, not just depth. Depth is the word that is used when you have great players that are paid less that do their job really well. Like, because you have four lines. Four lines is the best players. Second line is the second best players. The third line is specialists, and fourth line is energy players. So when your third and your fourth line have players that are really specialists, and your fourth line has high energy players with skill, you can consider that as you have depth. Like your team is deep, and you can rely on your two last lines to do the job for you, right? There you go.
So what we gathered here is Draisaitl is the greatest playoff riser, and David Pastrnak, not Marner, is the greatest playoff faller. But here's the thing, we all know that depth is crucial for playoff runs. There will always be matchups, indoor games, where star players are going to get shut down and aren't going to win you every game.
Exactly. In playoffs, depth is important because the coach is trying to counter your best players. He is building his team to counter your best players. So to have the third and fourth line being able to show up and perform and do their job so well that it creates goals is crucial. It is crucial that you have guys that you can rely on that might not have the skill, but they are able to work hard and know the game plan.
Therefore, depth scoring is what wins cups. And if we look back at past Stanley Cup winners, I would notice a significant trend. Every Stanley Cup winning roster has had at least one player who would significantly elevate their games in the playoffs. For Tampa, it was Palat.
Oh, Palat, yeah.
For Colorado, it was Lehkonen.
He was with the Canadiens. I love the shit out of him. In my opinion, he is the single best third line player at the moment in the NHL. This guy could easily play on a second line. He could easily play on the first line in San Jose, in Utah. Yeah, I say Utah because Arizona's moving. Sorry, Arizona. That must suck, by the way, having your team stripped away like that. Anyways, so he could easily play on the first line for Arizona, Utah, San Jose, and Chicago. But every other team that's not competing right now, he could be easily their second line winger. This guy, when placed on a proper team, is insane.
Has scored, and for the second straight.
And he was with the Canadiens, and I love the shit out of him. When people didn't like him, I saw in him a lot of things. And when he was traded from Montreal, he was having a great season, and we traded him because we weren't in a position to win, and we knew that a team that needed him would pay a lot in return. So we traded him to get a big return that might be good in a few years, but when you're thinking right now, this guy is the guy you want to have on your team. But in the future, no, you're going to take the young guy or the prospect that you're going to pick, because he might have a bigger potential. But this guy inserted in the bottom six is the best bottom six player, in my opinion.
He sent his team in overtime to the Stanley Cup final.
And for Vegas, it was Barbashev.
Capitalized. Here's a shot and a goal.
Think about the optics here. Arturi Lehkonen goes from a good player in the regular season to a star in the playoffs, where he makes a fraction of Mitch Marner while putting up the same stats. Having an X factor like this is the difference between a long cup run and seeing disappointment.
Exactly. Your support players that elevate their games during the playoffs. That's what I was playing. That's what I was talking about. These three guys are support guys, specialists, but when comes playoff time, they thrive of teams. They thrive on the fact that teams are preparing to counter their best players. So these guys are forgotten, and these guys put up a lot of points
year after year, which again emphasizes the importance of smart roster construction. If we take a look at teams who have severely disappointed, none of them, not even one, have had a breakout depth scorer. Toronto during the Austin Matthews era has had none.
People like to discredit the Montreal Canadiens Stanley Cup run, but Montreal had depth. I'm sorry, but they did. Okay, if we go to teams, Montreal Canadiens. A lot of people love to discredit, whoops, I had it too, roster. They like to discredit the 2020-2021 playoff run, but Montreal had a lot of depth. What they did not have is star players to match it. That was the real problem. Josh Anderson, say what you will, he's a big guy, and when he plays right, it's good. Joel Armia has shown this season why he deserves to be on the Canadian. Belzil is a perfect guy to slot, was a perfect guy to slot in when you have injured. Paul Byron is a penalty killing specialist. When you're talking about specialist, this guy is a defensive specialist. Cole Caulfield was considered an add-in at the last second because he was a young guy. They needed someone. They were like, he's young. We drafted him. Let's give him a chance. And he ended up destroying in the playoffs. He ended up scoring so fucking much. Philip Dano was a great second line forward. Drouin, when paired up with superstars, is awesome because he has a great vision for the game. Jake Evans, another specialist. Frolik, a guy you can slot in when someone's injured. Gallagher at that time was a great energy player that could play on the second line. That's what made him special, is that he was someone with the play style of a third line, but he had the skill to play on the second line. So that created a pest on the ice that teams hated. Kotkaniemi was a rookie that was kind of a bust, but at the same time he had a lot of promise. Lehkonen, who we just saw. Corey Perry, who was a veteran, able. Eric Stahl. At that time, Suzuki was a second line forward. Thomas Tatar, also a second line forward. Toffoli, also a second. You see you see the pattern now. Like, Montreal had a lot of depth, but they didn't have first line power, which is why they had success during the playoffs. But when matched up against Tampa Bay, who was $8 million over the limit, they couldn't do it because their best line outmatched our best line. And we had the best goaltender to ever do it. But when matched up against the best freaking offense, there's so much you can do. We had the best defense. I am convinced that we had one of the best defense. Like, Shea Weber and Edmondson were on top of their game. Big shutdown defenseman. Ben Sherratt was a shutdown defenseman as well. Victor Mete was moving the puck like crazy. Jeff Petrie was a two-way machine. Romanov was also... was also a shutdown defenseman. We had a lot of good things at that time, except for the star power of the first line. And that's why I'm saying stop discrediting the 2021 Montreal Canadiens, because they had amazing pieces. And they deserve to be there, okay? Fuck you if you disagree. Anyways.
You can even look at the Oilers. And don't get me wrong, their depth has gotten much better over the past couple years, but they
Okay, no. I take back what I said about the best defense. They had the best defensive defense, in my opinion.
too have not had a single depth scorer who has elevated their game to the next level. With that being said, the Oilers have McDavid and Draisaitl, who are definitely a prime example to how stars can compensate. Even look at the Canucks. A guy like Pettersson has not shown up, but the Canucks are lucky that they have players like...
So the Canucks are in a weird situation, because next season they're going to start paying this guy close to $13 million for what he did during the regular season. But in the playoffs right now, he has 2 points. 2 points, and they played 6 games, 8 games. 2 points in 8 games for someone making close to $13 million next season. That is worrying.
Like Dakota Joshua, Mr. Game 1. Justin Williams is Mr. Game 7. Joshua is the Wayne Gretzky of Game 1s. And based on these findings, you have to ask the question, does your team have an ace in their bottom 6? Because if not, your team might just be in trouble. And as always, thanks for watching.
Yeah, exactly. Montreal Canadiens were full of aces, but they didn't have the jokers. You get what I'm saying? They didn't have the jokers, the king, the queens. That's what cost them the series against Tampa, sadly enough. Also, Drouin, which I said was injured. So arguably our best playmaker at that time was injured. Well, he was not in. Well, yes. Okay, he was mentally injured. Okay, let's just put it like that. And he needed time off, and he did well taking the time off because things were not right. And apparently he was getting addicted to weed. Apparently he still smokes a bit, but it was bad back then. So I'm glad he took time off. And look at this season. He's like scoring like mad. So like to anyone who doubted Drouin, hold on. Let me get my point across. Fuck you. Respectfully. That's it for me. I'm done nerding out on hockey. We can watch some funny videos now. Man. Sorry about that, chat. I get really passionate about hockey. I just think it's such a cool fucking sport. I think it's a fast fucking sport that combines strategy, physicality, and you have insane plays. It's just beautiful. It's like, I don't know how to call it. It's just beautiful. Well, hockey is beautiful to me in a way.
With new jams and to advance your prehistoric, who I be is the question and the answer is rhetoric. With new jams and to advance your prehistoric, who I be is the question and the answer is rhetoric. Who you messing with? Who you playing with? 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 I'm the best.